Definitely, Justin. Hey, congratulations on Alone with You.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
So first of all, do you two see this film as an indie horror or like a psychological thriller?
All of the above. I mean, it definitely is. It is not your traditional kind of hack and slash horror film. We definitely leaned more into the films we enjoy from the mid to late 70s, the early 80s. Some more of the thriller, psychological, that slower kind of fare. But at the same time, there are definite elements of a more traditional horror in there. It's just it's sprinkled in and done with intention. But yeah, I would say honestly all of the above. I don't know. What would you say?
I would say I can point to our influences, which may be, a good answer as well. We really love the cinema of the 70s, the Polanski's, The Tenant, Repulsion. Obviously, there are some echoes in there, but Don't Look Now really influenced the editing style and the sense of dread. And honestly, I think this is an emotional horror film, a horror of relationships and identity.
Yeah.
So it's not quite the hack and slash that we both love, like the t-shirt he's wearing, yeah. Hellraiser. Love Hellraiser. This is not Hellraiser, but I think still horrifying nonetheless.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I have to admire your guys' background because that is definitely a love of horror.
Oh, we're fans. Actually, this guy over here was in Army of Darkness. That's one of the Deadites.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Seen that movie so many times, you have no idea.
We're fans as well as filmmakers, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, then that begs the question: is where did the original idea came from for Alone with You? What actually sparked? What nightmares did you guys come across to come with this story?
I mean, this honestly started with a short film that Justin had written. Very different than this film, though. The film was called A Closed Door, about a male protagonist going through something similar, but it morphed. Once we went into lockdown, we got very restless. We can't sit still. We shot a couple of shorts, and then we were like, how can we make a feature? So there was a graveyard that was open near us because all the parks in New York City were closed. So we would walk around this graveyard and spitball, like, what about this idea? What about this? And this developed very organically. It changed completely from the short version, and we created Charlie together. It was a joy writing because I would get up early in the morning and write something, hand it off to him, and then we could immediately audition the dialogue because I'm playing the lead character. We could see if that worked. If my mouth didn't fit around a couple words, we would be like, let's switch that. And then that spilled over into crafting Barbara Crampton's character and Dora Madison and Emma Miles. So
yeah, very much took the same kind of legs as an old workshop theater. I mean, it was as we were working through things, we were able to move things, retry things, throw that stuff out, try new stuff. Luckily having your lead character living in the house with you while we were writing it, it was helpful in really finding the proper voice for who Charlie was and how she fits in this world. So it was, but it happened all quickly. I mean, it literally happened. This film, soup to nuts, happened during the pandemic. We conceived it in May, wrote it in June, shot it in July, August, and went into post. So it's a whirlwind of a film, but I think that is seen on the screen. I think that kind of sense of anxiety and madness helped in our filming it.
I was going to ask, how did this co-directing job actually work? So basically, there was a lot of shifting, a lot of experimenting throughout the entire production.
Always, yeah. I mean, we've worked together in the past, so we know that we have a very, very good shorthand when it comes to our thought process and how we work through film. We're two very different filmmakers separately, and that's the fun of working together, is we get to work on films that neither of us would write or direct as filmmakers separately. So it's something entirely new, but something very, natural and something very easy for us. I've said this before, it feels a great deal like play when we're talking through an outline or a story idea. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of us kind of bouncing the ball back and forth, throwing ideas. And usually we're so in sync with the direction that it's fun to discover the nuances together. So yeah, it's actually a lot easier than some would imagine.
Well, and I will say working so closely together there, we had no other crew in this shoot. A lot of people don't believe that, but it was literally just the two of us. We are partners in life and filmmaking. We live together. We are the crew in this film. We hung every light, him mostly, but this was a dance. And so though we are co-writers and co-directors, he was the DP and I was the lead. And so direction kind of spilled into those roles as well.
Yeah.
And if I felt the need to, later in the film, it becomes a bit more frenetic, he could dance with me. If I made a different choice, both as director and creative actor, he would follow me. And so that the lines blurred, but in a really fun, if you can call this process fun way.
Emily, I want to say you were nearly in 100% of the scenes. I'm discounting all those FaceTime moments. Was that quite challenging, or did you enjoy that?
Both, I think. I kind of made a deal with myself going into this. It terrified me. And I don't want to be in everything that, I direct or we direct, but we used what we had, and I was perfectly suited to play this role. I was, honestly, I had to look at this, even though the film is called Alone with You, and yes, I am alone in a lot of this film. I, as an actor, had to latch on to the relationships that we wrote and the relationships that we built as writers, because then I didn't feel alone. And I didn't feel like I was shouldering the weight of a film on top of me. Because if I went into this thinking that, there's no way this film would have gotten made. I would have been too terrified. Like I've never carried a film before. Yeah. So in a way, I had to trick myself and say, you're not alone. That is the mind game I had to play with myself. And thankfully I had scene partners like Barbara Crampton and Dora Madison and Emma Miles to help me feel not alone until the isolation really kind of took its toll on me. And you see that on screen.
Again, we're both there. She had mentioned we do this dance within these scenes. Like I am being a co-writer, and I'm very close to these characters. These characters are a piece of me as well. And so in shooting this, I am a very empathetic director naturally, and certainly with this story. So we were together. This was the two of us. I feel like, she's the face, but we both played Charlie throughout this film. Like we were there together. So she was never fully alone.
No, and I will say, as much as anyone feels empathy with Charlie or is on the journey with her, whoever can be, and chooses to be part of her world, that world is partially created through the visuals that Justin crafted as a cinematographer as well. We would storyboard, we would shot list, we would co-direct, but when we were shooting, he is the emotional journey of Charlie as well. So yeah.
Great. And I'm assuming Barbara and Dora, they were filmed separately in the normal just FaceTime style.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it's normal. It was super difficult. It was it's actually, I feel like I'm always reciting a tongue twister when I say, actually what happened is both of them were sent cameras and audio. Both of them did their own lighting, their own makeup, their own, they ran their own camera. So everything in their performance was actually done entirely separate from capturing Emily's performance of Charlie. She would always be there as a scene partner to give them something to work with, obviously, and then as a director to kind of direct through her actions as to where she wanted that relationship to go. But ultimately, we were only there to capture Barbara and Dora's performance. Then later on, we would have Emily doing a lot of preparation with those performances, and she would kind of work with that almost as just kind of readying for her time on screen. She would then actually act against a green screen, and then all of this stuff would be put together in post. So it was unbelievably difficult, honestly, as an editor as well. It's just terrifying. Of course, I couldn't, the entire time it was like, yeah, no, this is going to be fine. We know how to do this. I'm like, please, God, make this work. And luckily, due to some wonderful performances and some amazing editing through our editor, Ward Crockett, it came together in a beautiful way.
Great. Well, lastly, let me address the other character in the film. It has to be the apartment itself. Was that your live-in apartment at the time during the pandemic? And what's it like to film and live on the set?
It was a lot. And yes, we did live there. I actually moved in with Justin about a month prior to the pandemic, just fully locking New York City down. So honestly, Justin, you see a little smattering of it behind us, but the apartment was nothing but horror IP. It was Hellraiser, Evil Dead, Jason. I mean, he has a life-size sculpture of Predator, none of which we could film. Otherwise we'd get sued. Like, we're just going to get sued forever. So we had to completely redecorate the apartment. A lot of Amazon purchases, a lot of his mother sewing pillows for us. We had to outfit that entire apartment as Simone's apartment that Charlie had moved into. So we really did move apartments without moving apartments.
Yeah,
we lived in
weird.
Someone else's world for 2 months. And
living in your apartment
bizarre.
While it's in fact somebody else's apartment. It's, I mean, that's kind of the madness that we kind of had to deal with throughout film. I mean, living on your set is not recommended. No. I don't recommend it to anybody. Trying to figure a work-life balance when you're literally living among the set pieces that you're filming is not healthy. No. and very difficult. But luckily, I think you see a lot of that on the screen. A lot of what we had to deal with, a lot of the anxieties, fears, the wild craziness that we dealt with in that is up there on the screen. Yeah. And for sure, the apartment, its character and the way it's shot has to be, it's important because it's a part of the story. Obviously, the space that she is in is a very significant part of this story. So it had to have utmost care when capturing that, for sure.
Well, we feel the isolation and we feel the loneliness. That's for sure. Well, thank you very much, Emily, Justin. Thank you for speaking to us with Alone With You.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, appreciate it. Next time.
Take care.
Bye.